Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Talking Point on your WESN, the Content Capital. My name is Sean Michael Small. Hopefully to be joined by my co-host in a bit. However, it is a beautiful Tuesday. I have to admit, I ran into a wall of vehicles leaving my house immediately from leaving my gate. That was an interesting surprise, and it only goes to show now that perhaps the question of our transportation networks, the question of how much lost productivity do we have literally just on our asphalt? Well, I can't even say roads because for some of you, you have more hole than road. But that is a whole other topic. And we'll get into some of the more juicy current events. However, gonna switch gears a bit this morning as we start off. And I have with me in studio a very special guest. We interviewed her before for our North Coast Jazz special episode on Talking Point. A person in the artistic community, a very talented vocalist and stage performer. I am speaking, of course, of the lovely Miss Leandra. Good morning, Leandra.
Good morning. How are you?
I am actually doing quite well. It's nice to have a change of pace. A lot of what we speak on the show is very heavy topics, and I will look to pick your brain perhaps a little bit later on towards the end about, you know, how the arts and entertainment industry in the country is going, particularly from your side, because I think a lot of people, when they think of entertainment in the country, they think of soca, carnival, calypso first. And not a lot of people, you know, realize to what extent we have a large selection of groups, of performers, in some ways, the size of which might even rival the amount of soca performers we have. But you're here to speak about an upcoming show that you're going to be putting on at the Little Carib Theatre this Saturday at 6 p.m. The name of it is Soundtracks Through Time. So could you tell us, you know, exactly what this performance is about?
Of course. Well, the show is based on movie soundtracks, songs from movie soundtracks throughout the years. It could be either the blockbusters or songs from movie musicals. I'm a big fan of movie musicals and musicals in general, so I wanted to find a way to make a show that would be appealing to others, other than just, you know, the theater nerds. Right. You know.
And I do find that soundtrack music has its own, well, a lot of them are iconic. And right now, it seems to me, I don't do a lot of searching, but like grand orchestras, that's what they're playing, because it's not like we have new classical composers just bringing out symphonies. But what I mean to say, I guess they do have that, but a lot of bands and or orchestras and or, you know, mixed groups, it'll be a lot of movie soundtracks or even game soundtracks, but that's a whole other. So what is it like now trying to take some of these, well, movie soundtracks? Because this is not necessarily a genre that a lot of people would be used to. Some of these songs obviously would cross over into radio and be hits, like the Titanic theme song.
Yes.
But not necessarily all of them. So what was it like trying to craft this concert together?
Yeah, that was definitely the challenge, because there are so many songs from these movies that, excuse me, that are very popular and that are near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, and mine included. So it was a task to try and decide which ones to choose, which ones to leave out. That was actually the most difficult part for me.
Because there were just too many that you wanted to do.
Yes, and that I know that are like fan favorites.
So were you able to, do you have a band backing you, or is it tracks, or is it a mix?
I have a full band. I have a 7-piece band.
Okay, now we're serious.
Yes, I have a brass section. I have a full live band. So it's, and I also have guest artists as well. John Thomas is going to be joining me. And we're also going to be having Felipe Noguera, who worked with Beryl McBurney, because the show is going to be during the celebration of Beryl McBurney weekend at the Little Carib Theatre. So in tribute to her, he worked with her when she was alive. So it's really fun to have that tribute and to have him be part of it.
He's a musician?
Singer.
He's
Yes,
a singer.
singer.
So you have a 7-piece band. It includes a brass section. I know that for jazz, you performed with a band. Was that band settled on for the festival itself? That wasn't necessarily your band, right?
No, that was the house band.
The house band.
Yes.
But this time you had to arrange.
Yes.
All of your backup players, all of your, who did the arrangements and decided on the music, and did you do that? Did you have somebody help you with that?
Oh, I had help. I definitely had help. I decided on the set, like the actual songs that we were going to be doing. But I had Rodney Alexander, who's my musical director. He was so instrumental in gathering the band. I pretty much left that up to him, and he got some incredible musicians. Emil Fortune on keys, he was also pretty instrumental in bringing the whole thing together. And I'm also having, in the brass section, and also doing solos, Tony Paul on
yes,
sax.
Yeah,
so I am really excited just for that part of it.
So give us some of the songs that you're going to be doing, because I'm sure some of the audience, if they hear something that is going to latch on them, because I'm curious as well, particularly, I know Tony Paul, I know you do some jazz, some R&B, so I'm wondering, what genres are you going to hit with this performance?
It's going to be a huge variation, because I'm classically trained, so that's like something that's I'm comfortable with. So I'll be doing some of that. I'll be doing movies like stuff from Grease, stuff from Sound of Music, Pocahontas, those, that kind of thing.
Anything from Phantom of the Opera?
Yes.
Here's an oddball one. Anything, because there's one song from Meryl Streep from Into the Woods, and if you said you would do it, no. That's unfortunate.
It is considered, though it was considered.
Really?
It
Yes.
was. Aww. It was.
I mean, if you could get that down, that could be a standalone piece by itself. So you have your band, you're getting ready for this performance, Little Carib Theatre. Could you explain to me, you said that it was a tribute weekend. So who exactly, the person who is being tributed, who was she to Little Carib Theatre, and how long is the celebrations? What are the events they're going to have?
Well, it's in celebration of Beryl McBurney, who is actually the founder of the Little Carib Theatre. So there's going to be a weekend of events in honor of her. And what she's done, she created this space for artists to perform in. And she was very instrumental in developing the art, considered the first lady of dance and the first person to have steel pan on a stage, and she's done some really incredible things throughout her career. So the weekend is going to be, my show will be part of that. It's going to be on Saturday, that's the 5th of November, and on Sunday there's going to be a screening of a movie. I cannot remember the exact name right now, but there's going to be, that's part of the celebrations.
Well, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I'm going to put you a little bit more on the spot now because, we just have 6 minutes left. Of course, you yourself now, you're striving in the space of arts and entertainment, and you're striving to be a solo performer, I guess that, generally speaking, And of course, the artistic community, there are a lot of projects. They don't necessarily get the same level of marketing or attention that FETs and Soca Monarch and Road March will get. So I am always curious now to the non-soca entertainers. What is the entertainment industry like for you now, particularly post-COVID? I know you did North Coast Jazz, and now you have this concert in Little Carib Theatre, which for those who aren't aware, it might seem like just a small theater in Woodbrook, but it's actually a pretty significant space in the artistic community, and you could get some pretty good shows in there. What is it like now trying to be an entertainer in TNT right now?
To be very honest, it's not easy. It is a bit difficult, especially coming off the heels of the pandemic, which took a great toll on the entertainment industry, especially with all the restrictions. We couldn't really perform. It was live streams, and in that regard, it was definitely difficult, and it still is. I think the industry has some time. It's going to take a while for it to recover, and you see that with so many of the musicians that worked in these circuits. A lot of them left. They're working on cruises, and a lot of them have gone to work on cruises just to have like a steady income.
So they went away. They're literally
Yes.
physically not available right now.
Exactly.
What about audience response? Have shows gotten similar response as per usual before the pandemic, or is that also, because I know that with regards to partying and clubbing and going to bars and fetting, to some extent you get the sense that people are so enthusiastic to the point where they are a little bit reckless. I mean, we saw it got to the extreme in South Korea this weekend with regards to the Halloween. Exactly, and it was young people going out there and just none the wiser. Now, I'm not saying it's that dangerous, but we know that one part of it, people just going out to get some freedom, is a big deal. Maybe less so in TNT because the restrictions haven't been so bad for a few months now. But have the fact that now you could go see a show, are the audiences, the traditional theater goers, the ones who would actually want to go see a live show that isn't just a soca performance, are they coming out, or is it still taking time for them to get used to it again?
I do think it's taking time for them to get used to it. It's I think a lot of people are being cautious still. They're still very much aware that the virus is out there, because it is, and we have to be aware of that, and but I think now it's starting to build up again. Like, we have a lot of events happening. There are so many events just this month alone that are happening. It's like I have to decide which ones I want to go to, So that's great that the artists are deciding to really put themselves back out there as performers again and be able to entertain the audience. But I will say that it's really, really nice to be able to perform for a live audience. I've missed that. I've missed being able to go to shows as well, because that was like my main form of entertainment and social life. So.
Right. Okay. I will say this, as somewhat of a lower tiered performer than you, I actually don't necessarily like going to shows.
Okay.
It's funny enough, but then also there was a part of me that liked not having the audience, because the whole, I mean, it was a lot less, you had a lot less to do, but my group just had its live show a couple of weeks, well, at the start of October, and that was to get back into that pace, was not necessarily something that I want to do on a regular. But you mentioned that a lot of artists had to go away just to try to find some steady work, and obviously in that situation, you're not necessarily going to get the best opportunities, because things, the whole world was locked down. It wasn't as though there was theater in London going on while Queen's Hall had chains across its doors. What is it like now? Have you ever considered migrating? Because we've seen trainees have significant international success on some of the biggest stages. Do you know if a lot of people are looking towards that? Or is the artistic community here, are we going to get back to that maybe slow but hopefully steady growth?
I have looked into it. I kind of am looking into it, because like I mentioned, it's not the easiest situation at the moment. And you either have the option of staying and trying to exist and survive, quote unquote, survive within the industry or get a 9 to 5. And for some, myself included, that could be daunting.
Yes.
So it's something that I'm looking into. My sister actually left recently, about a year ago. She just like,
She's also a performer.
Yes, she's also a performer as well. And she's just like, okay, I'm going to leave. Bye. She decided, and within a week she was gone. So,
I mean, that is just the reality that a small island has to face. Although I do appreciate those who stay down here, like Tony Paul. I don't believe he left for any significant period of time. And he's done, I've seen him in a lot of different shows, as well as those like Etienne Charles who come back. You know, and he brings his international experience. So hopefully you will find that happy medium, whichever way it goes. The show's name is Soundtracks Through Time. Ticket price is $250. And I do believe, folks, that given the talent that I've seen of this young lady at North Coast Jazz, it would be well worth it. You've got Grease. Tell us some of the other soundtracks again.
Grease, Pocahontas,
yes.
The Sound of Music, and a whole bunch of others. Phantom of the Opera.
I mean, I could just imagine you singing. It's Colors of the Wind, right? It's the specific song. I could easily see you singing that song and smashing it. I unfortunately will ironically be on a week trip that weekend.
Oh. It's going to be live stream as well. That's an option.
So, well, be live streamed. Is there a link?
Yes. You can find it on Little Caribs page.
Little Caribs.
You can also find it on my social media, on Facebook, I go by Leandra. Instagram, I go by Leandra. All of my social media platforms are at I go by Leandra. So you can find all the information there on the show.
Wonderful. Folks, I would definitely encourage, at the very least, check it out on the live stream. You know, see for yourself what it's like. As much as I say I don't necessarily go see a lot of live shows, there is a big difference, however, seeing it live. So if you can, I definitely will encourage it. I have seen this young lady live before. She definitely has the talent. But that is more or less all the time we have. We actually went a little bit over time. So we have to take a break, and I will bid you adieu and good luck on Saturday. Folks, when we come back, well, I hate to say this, but we're going to have the usual doom and gloom of the current events of the nation. So it was nice to have a little bit of sunshine and artistic beauty in our lives as it lasted. But we'll be right back here on Talking Point on WSN, your content capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Welcome back to Talking Points. And now I switch gears from the lighter side of the arts and entertainment industry to the heavier side, and that comes down to when the industry gets a bit more messy. And mainly now I'm pointing towards Tobago Carnival. We just had it last weekend, and already we have conflicting claims as to just how things went. On one hand, I believe the vice president of the Tobago Hotel Association is saying that, you know, she thinks it was an 8 out of 10, and overall it was a success, particularly for it being the first time. I am speaking, of course, the words of Caroline Birchwood James. Meanwhile, the political leader of the PDP, former Deputy Chief Secretary of the THA, former PSA president, he's a union leader, I think he has never necessarily left that mindset despite the fact that he was forced to give up the post. He basically wants to say that it was bad. The weather made it a failure. Don't mind that, you know, technically speaking, Carnival is an outdoor experience and no man could control the weather. You know, because there was mud in Carnival, as though there was never mud in Carnival before. And the THA was the only ones who benefited because they got free tickets to expensive fetes. Well, fet promoters are going to make fetes expensive. And how much tickets they want to give free to whoever is their business. To what extent that the THA got free tickets, we don't even know. If the THA put on events and they had some free tickets, I mean, all of those things are details that we need in order to make these claims substantial. So my only thing though is, while the occupancy rate for the hotel rooms might be higher than 90% on the weekend, it essentially was mainly a weekend. And you could argue a few days before, because there were some events, I think, before Friday. But it was mainly centered around a weekend. It's just one period. That's not enough to make the hotel industry and the food and beverage industry and the entertainment industry sustainable in Tobago. Now, it's good to have an event. You add an event to the calendar, particularly at a dead point in time. But it is still just one weekend. There are 3 other weeks in October, generally speaking. Or I think this year there might have been 4 other weekends. There were 5 Sundays this year in October. And every month you have about 4 weekends. Plus you have weekdays that generally go empty in certain periods of the year. These are challenges that the industry has to face with ever-increasing costs. To say that it's a success, though, I think is valid, because at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think Carnival was meant to solve all of those problems. The event itself had patrons. The patrons, according to some reports, seem to have been happy with how things went. And at the end of the day, we have successfully started something new. And those who know what Island Crashers is, if you knew how it started, it had a lot more humble beginnings than this. You know, there is a chance that this could become something. It just all depends. One of the things is, I don't necessarily know why Mr. Duke has to undermine for the sake of undermining, because he appears to be opposing for the sake of opposing. Because he is in the out with regards to the THA. And he doesn't necessarily want to support any THA initiatives anymore. Everything the THA does now seems to be wrong, seems to be evil. Those wicked THA people. Sound familiar? The thing is, Mr. Duke is the one that said, well, if we have success in local government election in Trinidad, I'll leave the THA. I just want to point out that for someone who's supposed to be rallying the cause of Tobago, is doing this primarily for the people of Tobago, I'm pretty sure that was the soapbox that he stood on with the one man, with him, his brother, and his dog, or whoever, right? The one man in the darkness shouting, I don't know who was listening to him. I'm sure it was a lot about Tobago, the issues of Tobago, the need for development for Tobago, the need for more employment opportunities in Tobago. Now, he might not have said more employment opportunities that aren't from the THA. But now, you know, in the face of a little bit of adversity, he's going to say, well, you know, if we succeed in local government elections, I'll go there. And now, all of a sudden, his focus is going to be the plight of the people of whichever region in Trinidad that votes him in, and not necessarily the people that he started with. What does that say to you? That when he gets tough, he's going to look for greener pastures where he could exert more influence, where he could get more praise, where he could get more out of it to further his political career that started not when he created the PDP, but when he was president of the PSA. Which leads me to my next point now. Let's move away from the arts industry, because to be fair to Tobago Carnival, we really won't know how much of a success it was or how little of a success it was for a while. We need all of the stakeholders to really take stock, to fully analyze what happened. So let's put that let's take a pin in our conversation. Hopefully we could talk to either Chris James or Ms. Birchwood James. But I will just be for the hotels. Hopefully we could get a few other stakeholders as well, get their response about it. But with regards to Mr. Duke, the Duke himself, just exactly what has he done? What has he accomplished in his career that will foster any sort of confidence that he is the man that will solve your problems? What problem has he solved? Did he help the situation in Warsaw? No. I mean, if you really take what he literally said, he had no issues during the pandemic to ensure that people with high-paying jobs got raises. He admitted that the jobs were high-paying. This is something that Tutor or other unions, the current president of the PSA, the Communication Workers Union, the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, the Seafront and the Sea and Waterfront Workers Union, they don't want to ever say the words about high paying. The only thing they say about the level of compensation is it is 2014 levels or whatever year, 2011 or whatever year. They don't actually tell us, is it high, is it low, how does it compare to comparable jobs in the private sector, is it higher than that, you know, or what the number actually is. It could be lower than a private sector equivalent, but still be a very good living. We don't know. They don't tell us those details, except Duke was foolish enough to say, I'm going to keep your high-paying jobs and I'm going to get you raises. That's his mindset with regards to WASA. To some extent, we need to realize how much was the 14-1 in the THA election due to Mr. Duke, and how much of it was due to other people there. Because if it was due to Mr. Duke, then why wasn't he put forward as Chief Secretary? I mean, even he had to admit that as a candidate for Chief Sec, he might not have gotten all of the seats, from what I understand. So how is it that we evaluate people? Because he's getting support, and I don't understand why, to be honest. He created the PDP, and if he was able to level up his game, fine. I won't have a problem with him. I have given Dr. Keith Rowley a chance when he became Prime Minister. I gave Kamala Bissassa a chance when she became Prime Minister. I did not judge them for their past utterances before they accepted that role. I did not judge them for their past actions. I judged them on what they did as Prime Minister. Not really looking so hot. Now, Mr. Duke was on Chief Sec, he was Deputy Chief Sec, but the point is they won an election 14-1. They had something of a mandate to improve Tobago. What did he accomplish? He got into a fight over an excessive amount of money for a small performance group, and he wanted it, from what I understand, in a manner that broke proper policy and protocol and was potentially illegal. That's what he started a fight over. Not no big issue about development of the island. He probably started it because he felt embarrassed because he wanted to do something for some people and look like the man, big man on campus. And it's not as though Farley told him, hey, no, you're not big man, you small man. Farley just told him reality. We can't do that way. We have to do it this way. Why? Because that is the proper procedure for accountability. Why is he still popular? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something I don't see. But it goes now towards how we pick our leaders. Because it's not just him. He's not alone. He's not the only one. Let's not make it seem like Mr. Duke has some great faults that are unique to him. He's a very human individual. He has very human faults. Why are we picking average people to be our leaders? Because I would say right now, the top 3 parties in the country is the PNM, the UNC, and the PDP, right? Because the PNM they won the last central government election. The UNC is the opposition party with a significant share of parliamentary seats. And then the PDP, of course, have their landslide victory in Tobago. But right now, they're still only account for the THA. And they're the newest party. But the 3 political leaders of those parties, first of all, they're not new kids on the block. The PDP has a lot of new kids on the block. The other existing parties have some relatively new members on the front line in the public-facing roles. But the leaders are not new kids on the block. Why do we continue to act as though, one will save us from the other, when generally speaking, they act the same? What have they accomplished with regards to the development of the nation? When money flows, yeah, it's easy to make it look like we're developed. But I think there's something we need to understand about statistics, or the manipulation of information, the manipulation of communication. We seem to be content with just a little bit more. A little bit is less than 0. 1% growth is growth. When the Minister of Finance says we've seen growth in GDP, all he needs is any small uptick on the graph for it to be growth. What have they actually accomplished? Crime is skyrocketing. We're not necessarily seeing any new initiatives, any new technology, any new procedures. Soft measures, they're long-term. We need short-term answers right now. We're not seeing it. The PTSC, they bought new buses. They can't maintain their buses, but they bought new buses. Goes back to what Mr. Hammersmith said last week. You can't pass on anything without buying new things. New things means new contracts. New contracts means you could have kickbacks. PTSC can't maintain the buses, so what if they get 300 new buses? It is literally a question of how long will those buses last. The road network is what it is. The pothole network, right now, our roads are connecting dots to the potholes in this country. Our flooding situation, we complain about it every time we have heavy rain. Anything being done new? No. Local government, I believe on both sides of the aisle, are being underfinanced, desperate for money. It's just that the PNM local government corporations, they're not going to say nothing publicly because they can't. Because, they have to not make the powers that be look bad. The UNC, of course, are going to complain, and they're going to look like, well, they're the opposition party, so they're always going to complain. Hey, both sides are probably underfunded. Ministry of Education, that is a mess. What have we accomplished? Because the COVID response, as much as Keaton and I say, and I do believe Karen would agree that overall it went okay, it could have easily gone the other way. So why are we picking the leaders that we are picking if we are not seeing anything for it? Those of us who are true to ourselves will complain about the public sector not being promotion based on meritocracy or hiring based on meritocracy. But voters are the same thing with regards to the people who they elect in office. Listen, we have to take a break. Let me not go further into this. When we come back, hopefully my co-host will be here. If not, I'm going to continue giving you a piece of my mind on this because I am very, very much getting frustrated especially not just with the politicians, but with people who want to complain about the situation, but somehow expect somebody else to fix it for them. Especially the same people who they complain about, somehow they expect the politicians that they complain about to fix it for them. This whole thing is very frustrating, folks. I do wish I could have spoken to Miss Leandra about her upcoming concert a bit more, but we have to do what we have to do. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk more on this, on Talking Point, on your content capital.
We delve into the exciting world of neurology.
The brain's an electrical organ. If the brain doesn't get enough blood with food and oxygen to it, it's not able to supply the electricity to the rest of the body. If that happens for a prolonged period enough time where the brain stops getting blood, part of the brain dies. Essentially, that's a stroke.
Hey guys, so I'm getting a little nostalgic here, sitting on the blocks at the pool. Today we're going to talk a little bit about swimming. What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
AM Prime on WESN, the only place from 6 to 7:30 a.m. where you can get the most analytical and thorough interviews and regional reports.
The Barbados Labour Party, led by the Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley, once again able to achieve a clean sweep in yesterday's general election.
I think a lot of people have underestimated the power of Tobago nationalism.
If the government is afraid to say it, I, Martin George, I am saying it this morning on your show, Andy. There will be no carnival before Ash Wednesday.
Grab a cup of coffee and start your day right watching AM Prime with Andy Johnson weekdays from 6 a.m. Only on your content capital, WESN.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital. Welcome back to Talking Point, and of course, where I last left off, I was speaking about the fact that why do we choose the leaders that we choose? Because make no mistake, we choose them whether we actively vote or we get, we get left with them by default because we don't participate in our political process. But at the end of the day, we cannot deny that certain people in our society have support of a significant amount of members of the public. And what I don't understand is They don't have an ideology to say, this is how I'm going to solve your problem, so you have an expectation of what I'll do in the future. You just expect me somehow to wave a magic wand and solve the problems. They don't have a track record of accomplishment because, well, let's be real. What politician has accomplished anything really significant in the last 20 years? And the way how they behave doesn't necessarily inspire confidence in their communication style. They don't always, sometimes they act professional, not always. So just what is it? I'm not really seeing it. But that second point there about the lack of accomplishment, really and truly, we have a one-strip flyover to San Fernando. That is one of the largest pieces of development we've had in the country. Has the private sector grown? Has jobs in the country grown? Yeah, jobs grow because they figure out a way to stash people in the public sector. So, of course, my hopes have been answered. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Keaton Shaw. Keaton, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's just go straight into it. Really and truly, because I know that, yes, you've made this point before. Maybe the UNC will give you more development, but you might have to take more corruption to go along with it. But to what extent is it really more development to say that it's, significant for us to really differentiate them from any other political party right now? Who has accomplished anything?
You see, the thing is, development could be viewed as one thing in Trinidad. If you have a government that is underperforming, and if you have infrastructure across Trinidad and Tobago, as well as services across Trinidad and Tobago that are either decaying in a deplorable condition, you can't access them easily, or as you should. Any government that comes in and raises that service by 10%, or you see increased development, as I mentioned before, let's say you have an area that has been plagued by potholes, a simple little thing. We speak about potholes so much. If you see a government that comes in and those potholes are repaired within no time, and then you actually see development taking place with your eyes, I see more services being carried out, efficiency is actually there, then that in their eyes is a better government than the one before. In other words, it doesn't actually mean that there's sustainable development. It doesn't actually mean that, listen, we're achieving something that we're going to benefit from increasingly in the future, or we're implementing things that are going to fix problems or issues of the past. We're just essentially doing the patchwork, the band-aid on the situation, and that to anybody in TNT is development and better governance.
Can we point to, this thing that we did, look at the dividends now, the payoff. Can we point to a payoff on almost anything? Because even the few things that we do have that are different from before, like the fast ferry, yes, it's a better service than what we had in the Panorama. It's faster, but it's operating at a significant loss. So society-wise, for individuals, yes, it's better. The ticket price isn't that much. For society, how much has it actually improved the things? Because we're paying for that in a very unsustainable way.
I've always thought that the subsidy on the inter-island ferry service, as well as the inter-island air bridge, I've always thought that is just a curtain for government, saying that, look, we have this there for you, we care about you, and we want to ensure that there's easy access. I think that if things were different in terms of the economy in Trinidad and Tobago, if people had access to jobs that were paying well, right? Bear that in mind. They have access to jobs that were paying well, because we've done nothing to actually diversify.
The government doesn't have to pay the salaries.
Yeah, and we've done nothing to diversify the economy in any sense, not even within a sector that has existed. We haven't done anything to diversify the energy sector, for example. In fact, employment within the energy sector has dropped to the lowest in decades here in Trinidad and Tobago. Employment within Trinidad and Tobago has dropped within decades, so we've done nothing to it. If you had people that were earning a decent income and the standard of living was very much acceptable, then Trinidad and Tobagonians will accept. And I could say this, like I'm almost certain they would accept full prices on the ferry ticket, the actual cost of traveling on the inter-island ferry service and the inter-island air bridge, because they will have the disposable income to do so.
One of the things, again, Barbados does not have gas subsidies. Somehow they manage. Granted, it's a smaller island, but the point still stands. Somehow they manage. Maybe if our road network wasn't, you know, I said it was basically, we're playing connect the dots right now, you know. How can we connect the dots from Moruga all the way to Port of Spain? Probably, right? There are enough potholes there. And I don't know to what extent that also
the other side
undermines
of it
gas efficiency.
The reason why we keep electing, and to me this goes for both sides, because if I look at the current government, there are members within the current government who I think are good, right? And they could be part of a brilliant government. There's also members of the opposition. I don't think the opposition as a whole is strong, but there are people and members within the opposition who can make a good government, right? I think collectively there are individuals who could work together to make a better TNT. I think the reason why we keep electing the same old is because of two. One, essentially people argue that there's no other choice. Those are essentially who the parties put up, right? So they vote for the lesser of two evils, or in many instances we use that term to essentially say, well, we play the race card. You know, the lesser of two evils comes in as a guise for the race card. The other aspect is, it's simple. Trinidad and Tobago society is extremely impatient. We expect the government to come in overnight and fix a situation. So what it becomes, there's a level of ignorance within the population. People might get upset with this, but it's absolutely true. It's right. Debate it with me. There is a level of ignorance within the population that we will keep accepting mediocrity as long as the lesser of two evils is within the walls of Parliament. Colin Imbert says, I've said it multiple times on this platform, and I repeat it once more, and I think it's one of the most sensible things that he has stated before. He says, the reason why the PNM has been in power and has always been a constant within the political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago is because they've always been deemed as less corrupt than the United National Congress or any other government that existed. That's what he's argued. And quite frankly, if you think about it and break down the terms, he's not saying that they were completely not corrupt. He said less corrupt, right? So he was smart in using it. But also, what's interesting is that ties back into the fact that the PNM, and I said it yesterday, were a very strong opposition. If you had a strong opposition now, things like the Wilson Nelson case, which is huge, it's huge. That has what? That's basically died.
Because the flip side to that is, we need to understand, as things potentially get progressively worse, there are a lot of horror stories about what happens now when things get bad and you get too desperate and you look to the wrong people to solve your problems. And I'm not necessarily going to the most extreme example because that has far too many horrible connotations and I don't want to imply anything unintended. I usually like to go to the extreme examples. But a less extreme example, relatively speaking, is our neighbor Venezuela. Because, and the reason why Venezuela is so present is we could see so many parallels with how the politics and the economics, they mirror so well with regards to, I will solve all your problems. How? By using oil and gas money and redistribute it in the form of social assistance. And you will love me for it and support me and keep me in office.
That's what happened with Hugo Chavez.
Exactly.
Remember when Hugo Chavez came in, he basically took over Venezuela's oil company, and then there was an explosion in expenditure as it related to social grants. That's what Hugo Chavez did. Hugo Chavez remained exceedingly popular because of that.
Venezuela went from one of the richest, most prosperous countries in the Western Hemisphere to a country in significant turmoil, and a country whose economy, to some extent, collapsed. They had issues with supplying food, or even, well, I don't even know how bad the inflation got. I don't even understand how they managed to get through the pandemic, to be honest. And I think we need to understand that, look, you're not going to, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to seem like it happens overnight because we're going to be ignorant about all of the small changes that lead us to that road of where Venezuela reached. I'm pretty sure Venezuelans did not expect. Venezuelans in 1988 did not expect to see their country what turned out in the year 2015, for example.
In Venezuela now, as we speak, the currency, essentially water, what Nicolas Maduro has done. He's actually printed currency, then he's printed more currency, which makes no sense in terms of economics.
Well,
it doesn't work.
You could do it, but it's very complicated, and I won't even pretend to know all of the ins and outs of it.
And what has happened now is that there are a couple of things. One, you see Venezuelan nationals who came to Trinidad and Tobago to get a better life actually going back to Venezuela.
Yeah.
They've said things are too difficult for them in TNT.
Yep.
So they're going back to Venezuela. The other side is in Venezuela, because the currency is so overvalued, right? In other words, in Venezuela, it's like TNT as well. Money is of no worth. The paper notes are of no worth in Venezuela. So they don't actually pay per bills. They actually weigh money now. So you can have a bag of $100 bills and they wait. They don't actually count it. They wait. And that's how it's operating in Venezuela right now. You actually have Venezuelan women going to the borders, right? And cutting their hair and selling their hair and doing these things just to survive. And yet you see Venezuelans in Trinidad deciding to go back to Venezuela because it's difficult. So you see the situation in TNT, as much as there may be those who say, well, we preach doom and gloom, and there may be those that we only preach negativity, whilst there's positivity in the sense that we're awake and we're alive this morning, and thank God for that, and we thus far, we've been able to see each day through. It's been a struggle for many, but we've been able to do it. The situation is not getting any better at all.
No, because, and I think it's not as though we're just saying, oh, it's not getting better for the sake of saying it, right? And it's not just all about crime. The failings of the education system feeds into crime. We know that the facilities maintenance and construction and repair and refurbishment, that all is one big mess. I am of the opinion that the syllabus is one big mess. They make changes every year. The teachers are overworked, those that do try to work. And that, of course, includes private school teachers because they have to teach, generally speaking, the same syllabus as public schools. And the educational opportunities now, yes, okay, for those at the top, they're going to be okay. They might not be as competitive on the global market as they should be. They might not get the same sort of academic achievement as they should. But we're not even worried about that right now. We're worried about those who slip through the cracks, who fall out from the bottom. And the Education Ministry has the highest allocation. I'm not even sure if that's close to covering what they need to fix all their problems. That's feeding into the crime situation. The crime situation is then undercutting the private business / diversification / economic growth situation. So it's one big feedback loop because as the economy struggles, we have less revenue. Because we have less revenue, we might not have enough in order to solve our problems like we do with the education system. That keeps crumbling. So we have people who don't have opportunity to turn into a life of crime, and so on and so on. The spiral, however, points us downward. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have to break for news on the hour right now. When we return, we'll open up the phone lines this morning and we will continue the conversation. Maybe Sean might continue to give you a dose of his mind this morning. We'll be right back after this.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise St. Clair. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. THA to investigate contractors' racist comments. PM convenes meeting with National Security Council. Man sentenced to 6 months for threats. And internationally, protests in aftermath of Brazil elections. Now for the details. The Tobago House of Assembly is set to investigate alleged inappropriate comments by a contractor. As the inaugural Tobago Carnival winds down, THA Chief Secretary Farley Augustine wishes to bring to the attention of Tobagonians an investigation that began on Friday. A Newsday article published on Friday was brought to the attention of the Chief Secretary. In this report, it alleges that contractor John Cheddy made a comment that is racist in nature when questioned by a reporter about a contract being obtained in Tobago. So far, the Executive Council is advised that the matter may attract some legal action. As a result, due diligence must be taken before the THA acts. National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines says no state of emergency is being planned at this time to deal with crime. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley chaired a meeting with the National Security Council and the divisional heads of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service at the Diplomatic Centre, St. Anne's on Monday.
To direct the government's policy to the police service, they gave the assurance that they are going to redouble their efforts and they would do a few new things in order to stem the crisis that obviously now surrounds us. And in terms of gangs, in terms of taking illegal firearms off of the streets, and in terms of police presence.
A 51-year-old man of Santa Flora has been sentenced to 6 months hard labor for the offenses of harassment and making threats to kill by putting his victim in fear of violence when he appeared before His Worship Magistrate Nazim Khan at the Superior Magistrate Court on Friday. Both offenses are to run consecutively, which would run as a 12-month sentence. On October 16th, around 12:30 p.m., the victim received a phone call from the defendant who made threats to kill her. On to international developments now. Lorry drivers in Brazil, loyal to President Jair Bolsonaro, have blocked roads across the country after his poll defeat to leftist rival Lula. Blockages were reported in all but 2 states, causing considerable disruption and affecting food supply chains. With all the votes counted, Lula had 50.9% of the valid votes against Mr. Bolsonaro's 49.1% in Sunday's runoff. The incumbent far-right president has neither conceded defeat nor challenged the results that divided the nation. Well, that was your news to the hour on WESN. I am Denise St. Clair. Thanks for watching.
Saturday, November 5th, Shore Park, Tobago. It's Million Laughs Caribbean Comedy Commerce, the mega laugh festival to end the Tobago Carnival season, featuring Tobago's finest in folklore and musical entertainment, together with some of the Caribbean's top comedians, Larry Joseph, Daryl the Saint Mendoza, Dolores, Alan the Entertainer, Handsome Sun, Mako Media, and more. Get your ticket specials available on Island E-Tickets and various outlets nationwide, or visit the Million Laughs handles for more info. It's Comedy Commerce in Tobago, a wee kind of commerce.
Welcome back, and I want to thank Denise St. Clair, head of news for WSN's News on the Hour. And I just want to point out, you saw a clip of the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines, where he says the TTPS says assured that they're going to redouble their efforts. I don't know what redouble means. So, I assume he means double their efforts, but minor mistake.
No, he said redouble. So they double their efforts. So normal human effort, they double that. Now they're gonna redouble it, right? They're gonna double down. They're gonna quadruple normal human effort somehow and get this done.
To me, that's minor. I think the bigger issue for me is when he said that they're going to implement new strategies and new things to try and fight crime, take guns off the streets and curb gang violence. My question to the Minister of National Security, I'm surprised no journalist asks this question, is what is it that you mean, or precisely what are those new things or new strategies?
I won't doubt that somebody did ask and he just didn't answer. But I will say this, no, I am concerned with how he messages, or how he crafts his messages, sorry, because it just seemed like empty buzzwords. And again, that's what we get from politicians too often. And you know what? I don't necessarily feel that when I see news from other parts of the region. I don't always feel that. But far too often in TNT, a politician has no idea with regards to anything to do with national security or whatever industry their ministry is overseeing of. So they just, chirp buzzwords. They use terms and phrases that either they don't understand or they know is meaningless or heaven forbid, they don't realize is meaningless. And that is just another case there. It is interesting that, after we pointed out that the Prime Minister was the head of the National Security Council, he finally decided to, hey, maybe I should exercise that hat, those responsibilities a little bit and see what's going on. Kind of late. But I'll just say this. At 509, that is the count of one daily newspaper with regards to the murder rate as of yesterday. That meant that from 505 on the weekend Sunday to 509, that's 4 murders for the day. We're on a record-breaking pace.
Hold on.
Just if that becomes a trend of 4 murders a day, I was freaking out when it was 2 murders a day.
Sean, we're having 13 murders a weekend. We're going a dozen plus a weekend. But just bear in mind that, again, I will stress the point that 4 murders is what was recorded and reported by the media and what the TPS made public. There may be much more than that. I wouldn't doubt that the murder rate is far higher than what is being reported. Anyway, let's open up the phone lines now so we give you, the viewer, the opportunity to express your opinion and share with us your thoughts. The numbers are on your screen. You can call in and join us on the program this morning. Let us hear from you. As we continue the conversation, I took note of what you were suggesting this morning with respect to Assemblyman Watson Solomon Duke. He's also the political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Essentially telling the teacher to apologize for failed carnival. I wonder what Mr. Duke deems as a failed carnival, because quite frankly, I'm in no position to judge. It seems as though overall the Tobago really enjoyed its carnival, even though there was very deplorable weather conditions. He's making the argument that it's only the assemblyman who benefited and the secretaries because of free tickets, free food. People had to pay $800 to $1,200 a ticket to see Burna Boy. So I'm not entirely sure what his argument is. Now, there are times when he does raise valid points. It's just his communication style is rather poor in bringing it across. In this particular instance, there were always concerns with respect to having carnival in Tobago around this time, even though it's the last of the chain, because of essentially the weather patterns. But more or less, to me, it looked as though, I would love to hear the public's opinion and the public's view on this, but just from face value, it looked to have been a success. And I'd also ask Mr. Duke, has he never benefited from a free Fed ticket in his life before? Has he never, he was head of the PSA. I don't know if by any means, or even his wife was a contractor who benefited so much from Water and Sewerage Authority contracts. Has he ever benefited from free food, free drink, free Fed tickets?
Think about it. His big complaint is that the only benefit was that they got free tickets. That's the big thing. That's the big sword that he's going to cut the mighty THA dragon, the evil THA dragon down. Not some corruption of kickbacks of $1 million here or $100,000 there. No. Free Fed tickets. That's it? That's all you have?
Well, $17.5 million as well.
It was spent. But if they had an event, that was the first time that patrons patronized.
He's also asking if the Fed took all the electricity because around Scarborough was shrouded in darkness.
Well, of course, the former PSA, president of PSA, is not going to ask TNTech anything with regards to their job performance. No.
We have a caller on the line with us from San Fernando. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Sean, you had a discourse talking about politicians this morning and what we might consider mediocre politicians. I don't entirely agree with that suggestion.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Politicians already have the number of the population. They already know the population that they come forward to and our reaction. So that is why they push the envelope and we don't say anything. Our main problem in this country is that we have not understood how to make politicians accountable. This party issue where people vote party and they have not been able to, okay, I vote for that party, but I should be able to criticize you, and not only criticize. When people understand their power, people power, that you have an MP and you call your MP's office and you complain. If you have an issue, you have to make that MP responsible. And that is what we have not been able to do. People vote party and then we leave it alone. There are good people that come up, in my opinion, that come up for office. Some of them run independently, but they don't get a chance because of our culture. Yeah. So we are able to do that. If we are able to do that, to hold them accountable, to let them understand that we demanding answers, and it is starting somewhat. They are going to have to change. That is what it is. My second issue quickly is talk about Watson Duke. You know, Watson Duke is a successful politician, you know, Sean. Watson Duke came from nowhere with a vision to take over that THA and run and boot out the PNM, which he did.
Wait, did he do it or did others do it?
Well, Sean, somebody had to kick the stone before to start to roll down the hill.
Listen,
he was there as part of it. Okay, he became as because of his rhetoric, he understood that to win, that he could not go offer himself up as THA leader, so he did that up front, and that is a brilliant strategy, Sean. So in my opinion, Watson Duke is a successful politician. He crazy a little bit, but he's a successful politician.
But I think perhaps, caller, that's probably what makes a successful politician in TNT now.
To be fair, you're not wrong, but
thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. But we've had Kamala's won an election, Rowley's won 2 elections. My thing was accomplishment with regards to what have they accomplished. And Mr. Duke, what has he done for the people who voted for him? He's been successful to get voted in, but what did he actually manage to do? I hear what you're saying. I mean, there are other people in recent history all around the world who won elections. I don't know. I mean, technically they were successful as well, but that's a bit of a semantics. Also, politicians do things to keep the country from holding them to account. They prop up the systems in a way, not totally, they're not totally responsible, but they prop up the systems in a way so that they don't have to be held into account.
Well, caller, I would respond to your comments about politicians in Trinidad and Tobago, but we have a caller from Chaguanas. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I see when I tell you the way to deal with all our problems is to enforce all our laws. You pay lip service by saying you agree with me. Because yesterday, when you had your guest, and I pointed out all what was wrong on the Eastern Main Road.
Yes.
He found a reason claiming why did the annexed authority, who operate just like him, allow those buildings to be built. 2 wrongs don't make a right. But what he don't understand, a lot of those buildings in the old commercial areas were built before they had regulations as to where you build. But even on the Eastern Main Road, there was a large amount of people that park. And when they see other people extending to the road and allowed to get away with it, not only is it happening, but it's happening in Chaguanas where I live here. Because when I was a boy, it only had 3 buildings that didn't have parking, which was a very old building. Now, if you go down Chaguanas, most of them have been extended to the road. So I will repeat my position that if the question is not crime, it is law and order. And you get order by enforcing your law. Any real questions?
Well, Professor, if it is that we only pay lip service and spit in the wind, I'm sure when I'm sure when elections come around, a lot of Trinidad and Tobago will vote for us simply because of that.
We're not for election?
No, we're not, but we might as well because we're doing good at what you're suggesting we're doing. You know?
I'm not suggesting, I prove it.
But thank you very much, Professor.
I guess we could have responded better yesterday because it's not as though we disagree with you, Professor. It's just that the situation that the ASP brought up does not make the solution easy. And I believe, this is of my opinion, part of the problem is police officers could try to enforce the laws, but then instructions from on high could kind of undercut or undermine their authority, and then the whole thing kind of turns into a mess.
Well, we have a caller on the line with us from San Juan. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to Keaton and good morning to Sean.
Good morning.
Yes. You know, when you think of the crime situation in this country, you know, the ministers, various ministers of national security, and the current one, they never cease to amaze you, you know. I think what Mr. Hines said, that the various divisional heads promised to step up their game and go to a higher level. I mean, we, Keaton and Sean, we have heard this on so many occasions before. I mean, I have heard this on umpteen occasions before. Whenever a crime crisis affects this country, we hear the police officers, the commissioners of police and deputy commissioners and assistant. They have so many of them now. Everybody is an assistant commissioner, some big title, assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner, acting commissioner, commissioner. And we have heard that they will step up their game whenever this crime crisis affects us. I mean, this must be crime plan number 299. And Mr. Hines has a way, he probably has a distinction in English language. I'm sure that when he sat his GC exams, he probably has a degree in English language, because he has a way he couches his language with words, you know. I mean, he could rank in the line which William Shakespeare and these fellas, because he has a way of words that he would put it across that he will convince us. Keaton and Sean, if Mr. Hines has a short conversation with both of you, you know, he will convince you to sign over your land property, your car, give him it in the morning, because he has a way with words. I mean, we're not getting anywhere. We have seen crime plan after crime plan after crime plan, and they're not working. I made certain recommendations the last time. I said that any time a person 18 years and over is on the public street, they must have some form of ID card, some form of identification of them. As I said, to zone the vehicles. So if you're living in Barrackpore and the police find you, see that vehicle in Laventille, I want to know what you're doing in Laventille. You came on some business, you're a carpenter, you come to build a house in Laventille. I could give you 10 things right now, but time doesn't permit that. But they're not taking the advice. Yeah. In closing, McDonald Jacob said in Jamaica, if they catch you with a unlicensed firearm, it is straight into prison for 15 years. Why didn't he say that I will recommend to the legislators here that are going to do better than Jamaica? It will be 25 years in prison, not 15 years. Trinidad going to do better than Jamaica. It will be 25 years in prison, not 15 years. I listened to your comments, so I thank you for giving me the time. I just fed up of all of these crime plans. Have a blessed day, both of you.
You too, caller. Thank you. I hear you. First of all, I know your frustration. This is the comment with respect to 25 years. It's simply not practical in terms of our law and legal system here in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, to incarcerate somebody alone for a year, it costs the state a lot of money.
Because we have so much people on remand waiting to be tried.
So I hear you with respect to that. Yes, give Fitzgerald Hines credit where credit is due. The man certainly has a way with his words. But you said crime plan number 299. Well, this would be the 299th plan that I still don't know any details of. Every time we speak about a crime plan, we never get any details. So is there really a crime plan? The simple and short answer is no. There is no crime plan in Trinidad and Tobago. So as much as you can say the divisional heads have promised to step up their game, please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me. We have a caller on the line with us. Good morning, caller from Diego Martin.
Thank you.
Morning.
Once more, this insecurity minister has talked and said nothing. He said they shared policy positions with the police and they wanted to find out what the government can do to enhance their capacity to go out there in defense of the safety and security of the people in the situation where so many murders have arisen. There is expressions, he said, is that incorrect, of concern and fear and trauma creating a crime crisis. But When asked if there was an emergency meeting, he said it was not an emergency. We regularly meet with the advisory team of the council, including the police commissioner. So we decided to meet with them in light of the situation. This is the same situation. That's not an emergency. Y'all, the same situation, not an emergency. He continued, because we as representatives of the people understand the trauma that people are experiencing. He says that already. Also the implications for wanton violence in terms of our international reputation as a consequence. We decided to engage with the police and with its leadership to indicate to them the public concerns. That is the third time he said that. To rehash the government policy. Again, blah-de-blah. Guns and gangs, parliament, anti-gang law, policy and the government. For the 100th time, dismantle gangs because they're perpetrating serious trauma upon the society, dealing with the gun crisis in front of us. Geez, y'all, in case you find I'm so annoying, that's what he does. He comes up with a big, long, convoluted piece of rubbish, thinking we're all uneducated idiots. Once more, he knows nada. He does not care. He needs to go, but Rowley is never going to get rid of him. What are we going to do? Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. You very much touched on some of the things I was thinking as well. To me, he speaks from the same script every time. Think about it. Every time. What does he do? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything. Then he says something about, you know, we will redouble, we will triple, we will increase, we will no stone left unturned, no holes barred, we will do everything, put our best foot forward. Whatever cliche line to suggest more effort. We don't actually see more effort, but he says something like that. Right? And that's it. They say things. There's no actual details. There's no commitment to anything. And notice, I think that's a similar script that a lot of the politicians follow. Just insert whatever situation here, remove crime and put in their ministry. And the other thing is, when some of the things that he says, or some of the things that politicians say, sometimes you're like, wait, you didn't realize we have a crime problem? Or we don't have a crime problem, but we have a crime problem, but we don't have a crime problem. But we're seeing consequences of a crime problem that we don't have. Why does the language that he used make it sound like it's news to him that the murder rate is on a record pace? Because they're now meeting all of a sudden.
Well, it is news to him because if ever you look at Fitzgerald Hines at any public meeting, Fitzgerald Hines is always falling asleep on himself. Now, we know the job of a minister could be, sometimes you don't get any sleep, but you have signed up for that position. You know what it entails. Fitzgerald Hines many a times is falling asleep, and I kid you not, go back and look at any videos, this man is always falling asleep on himself. You know, you speak about a crisis in TNT, but it's not an emergency meeting. You meet regularly. In those meetings, meeting regularly, what is said or what is done? Because clearly those meetings are not making any sense at all. You're just wasting time. You're wasting time. Those meetings have not led to anything. And please, I would love anybody to come on this program and challenge what we've said. That there is no national security plan, that the meetings are a waste of time. And quite frankly, these members of cabinet, I don't know how they've contributed to the positive development of Trinidad and Tobago, but I ended the show with it yesterday, and I'll repeat myself one more time. It's simple. They are hope for every single public servant that does not do their job, that they will ensure that they still have a job tomorrow. In TNT, you could not do your job. You could make a fool of yourself. You could make a fool of anybody else. You could blame others for your incompetence. And you could still get your fat salary. You could still get your title. You have your position tomorrow. And guess what? Doesn't work like that in the private sector, does it? Anyway, we have a caller line with us from San Fernando. Good morning, caller.
Yes, morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling from Philippines, San Fernando.
Hi, good morning, caller.
You're live on air.
I would just like to make a simple comment. I feel that they should call a state of emergency in this country with this crime situation because I am totally fed up. All right.
Thank you very much, caller. And you know what?
It's something to consider.
No,
I'm not saying we should do it, but we should at least consider
but quite frankly, if ever there was a time for a need of a state of emergency, it's probably now. You know, and maybe it's something that we could expand on tomorrow. You know, because there are going to be those who disagree, but there are going to be those who agree. Perhaps now, more than ever, there is the need for a state of emergency.
So I have another question.
A state of emergency is essentially going to give the police more powers.
Right. The thing is, the other thing too is the police getting enough resources? And I'm talking money, equipment, personnel, etc. Now they're saying they're going to have more joint patrols. I do need to ask this. The regiment came because of the West Indian battalions. We had one battalion, we expanded into regiment. Before World War II, I'm pretty sure they didn't need a West Indian battalion, right? What was the purpose of it? Why do we even have it? Why did we continue it? Why did we expand it? Yes, the support battalion, the engineers who do disaster relief, that's very, very useful. That's very practical. But is that the entire regiment? Is that the entire defense force? And then what about the Coast Guard? We buy boats that we can't cover our coastal waters anyway with any degree of surety. What's the point of buying these assets that are very expensive to maintain? We can't cover all of our waters. We don't even know, have they made any dent with regards to interdicting guns and drugs or potential gangsters coming from Latin America? So why do we have such a bloated national security apparatus when only one of the arms legally can carry out all of the law enforcement functions?
It's simple. When you leave school, you have 3 to 5 passes and you don't want to continue with your education because there is no hopes to get a job or for whatever reason afterwards. If I join the regiment, because we don't have an army, we have a regiment.
You might literally be hitting the nail in the head.
If we join the regiment, if we join the Coast Guard, guess what? We train, we do our exercise every day. We go through this rigorous training program, and we get a salary for how many years, you know, and then we retire. And that's what it's become.
And I think a lot of the same problems we see in the public service, just generally with the bureaucracy, the lack of meritocracy, the bloating, we might have that with regards to the TTPS, the Defense Force, and the Coast Guard.
And now also, there is this program on YouTube, which I like watching, by the way. It's called What You Know, and I'm pretty sure many of you would have heard it. If you get the opportunity, I think you should go take a look at it. Because there are times when they actually ask random people across the nation, who's the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago? Who's the Minister of National Security? Who's the Minister of Finance? Who's the opposition leader? They've asked those questions. You'd be surprised that people in Trinidad and Tobago don't even know who these individuals are. There are people within the population who don't know who the Prime Minister is, who the Minister of National Security. No,
I can understand not knowing ministers,
and
but
quite
the Prime
frankly,
Minister.
this ties back into what the first caller from San Fernando mentioned.
Yeah.
Many a times, it's that level of ignorance. I'm unaware of I'm unaware of who these individuals are. But if the PNM or the UNC is in power, as he said, they know their target population when they're going to campaign.
To be fair, caller from San Fernando, generally speaking, I agree what he says.
No, I agree.
It's a lot of it is on the voting public.
I agree.
Right? But at the end of the day, to some extent, these are the leaders that sections of the voting public follow. So it's hard to say that that the responsibility lies solely within one camp. But I think the caller from San Fernando is right in the sense that we need to understand how much more of a responsibility and how much more power we potentially wield if we wield it correctly.
Quite frankly, I also think that there's a lack of leadership, but that's an entire new topic.
Well, we need other leaders besides these political leaders.
Probably, but as I said, Professor, listen, if Sean and I are giving you lip service or
you will administrative reports.
any lip service to your points, or if simply that we're spitting in the wind, then guess what? That makes us successful politicians, right? Maybe, who knows, if we go up on election, we might win.
We have to be elected first to be successful.
No, don't worry, we'll get elected. We're doing precisely what they do.
Listen, let's just go there on the corner, in the Woodbrook corner, and beat the drum in the night, and we'll form a new party like Watson Duke. We'll use his model.
Well, nothing's wrong with that. I mean, he really, it took some time, but it worked for him.
No, it helped because he actually had quality people that joined the PDP.
Anyway,
that now he's at odds with.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we conclude things for this morning's edition of Talking Point. Thank you very much to my co-host of Sean Michael Small for rallying the show up until the half mark. But also, Sean Michael Small, well done. It's a good day. Remember, relax, you've vented, you've got your frustrations out. Give it another 24 hours before it loads up again.
I see 4 more murders in 24 hours. I might have an aneurysm.
I'm sorry, you already don't have one? Oh,
I'm alive.
I thought this was the side effect.
I don't know for how long.
Anyway.
The stress.
Thank God we're alive, you know, and thank God we were able to see another day, and maybe that's what we're going to have to keep chanting from now on. But folks, this has been Talking Points on your Content Capital. I'm Keith Sean. Remember, as ironic as it may sound and as it may be, today is a good day to have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Secretary Girls IC School presents Wonderland, a bazaar with a difference.
Saturday, November 5th, St. John's Ambulance Headquarters, Ryson Road, Port of Spain, 12 noon to 6 p.m. Many exciting stalls and much more. Walk along Adult Street and win many prizes from adult punchboard, hoopla, tin pan alley, and much more. Don't miss the many giveaways and surprises for all kids. Kids, are you ready for face painting, sweet parang, DJ music, Santa workshop, kids corner, dunk tank, wheel of fortune, and so much more? Saturday, November 5th, St. John's Ambulance Headquarters, Ryson Road, Port of Spain, comes alive, 12 noon to 6 p.m.
Wonderland!
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the content capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
We delve into the exciting world of neurology.
The brain's an electrical organ. If the brain doesn't get enough blood with food and oxygen to it, it's not able to supply the electricity to the rest of the body. If that happens for a prolonged period enough time where the brain stops getting blood, part of the brain dies.